Zanies.com.
Well, we find ourselves back here on a Buzz Box Office Thursday, and it's also Zanies Thursday, too, and I'm pleased to be joining the studio. I have 5 comics in my big repertoire of comics that I love. Louis C.K. and Bill Burr and Dave Attell. Awesome stand-up comics, and then the next gentleman in line there is the guy who's in studio now, Jim Norton. Welcome.
Thank you, man, very much.
Good company to be in there.
It really is, yes. Terrible company for them. But, it's funny, I do an advice show after O&A. I do like this on Wednesdays.
Yes.
And this is what a dummy I am. Louis C.K. called in yesterday. And he's just kind of insulting me and crapping on me. And I was like, hang up on this. I had no idea it was him. And then Eric is like, it's Louis C.K. I'm like, oh, I know the guy 15 years. I didn't recognize his voice.
But that's how anybody would call you, though. That's why.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, when I listen to it, and I'm a huge fan of the show, and I don't have a problem in terrestrial world calling out quality stuff. The Opie and Anthony show on Sirius XM is a damn good show.
Thank you, man.
It is. And Jimmy is the third mic on it. And you've been on it for 2000, since 2000?
Yeah, we try to figure out, like, I'll see, there's a Twitter account that has old O&A photos, and I'll see, like, photos, I'll go, I wasn't there then, but I was there then. So sometime in the middle of, like, or early 2000, I became, like, a permanent member.
Yeah. And you were, I mean, it all kind of started, you were kind of a Dice guy, right?
I was Dice's opener for 3 years. And he was great because he would always go, like, you got to meet my opener. He would always talk to them about me. And the first time I called in, I stunk. I was so bad. And they tolerated me out of respect for Andrew.
Yeah.
But they were kind of like, all right. You know, I was really brutal.
Right.
But the first time in studio was good. But thank God for the in studio because I stunk on the phone.
What do you think made them kind of go, let's give this guy another shot? Because they don't do that a lot.
They were, well, because of, again, it was Dice at the time. They were only on in New York at that time in the afternoons on NEW. So with Dice, it was, they loved Andrew, so they weren't going to be jerks to me unless I really asked for it.
Yeah.
So they gave me another shot in studio, and I was brutal to these old people they had in studio, and they kind of liked it. So Opie's like, come back, you can come back.
Right.
And it kind of snowballed from there. And they were fighting at the time. O&A were fighting at the time. I didn't even know this. And they told me like a long time later, this is how unobservant I am. So I would be in studio, and they would kind of talk to each other through me, which I just didn't even notice at the time. I was so happy to be there.
Jim Norton is at Zanies tonight, and he's here through Saturday, Zanies.com to get your tickets, or you can get them at the door. He does radio for a living, not only as well as stand-up, but do you bring any of the unique cast of characters going on inside your brain to stand-up, or do you keep that for radio?
Sometimes it depends. Sometimes I forget. A lot of times I'll do usually Chip and Uncle Paul.
Yeah.
Because they translate.
Yeah.
Sometimes people will yell Edgar, but it just bombs every time. So Chip and Uncle Paul, if I remember. And the best is the people that aren't O&A fans.
Yeah.
Because Uncle Paul is just a pig.
Yeah.
So that's always very satisfying.
Despicable is what Anthony calls
He
him.
really is reprehensible. I'm embarrassed sometimes. Like I'll re-listen. I can't listen to myself, but I can listen to the characters. Like I can listen to Chip, or I can listen to Uncle Paul, and I'll listen to it. I'll be like physically embarrassed that those things came out of my mouth. Like,
but does it get old, Jim? Some of the Uber fans that shout stuff out while you're on stage, you're trying to do your act, you're doing your bits, and someone will yell out an ism, if you will, an O&A ism. You're just I guess I get it. You're a fan.
Nah, you know what? Because a lot of times they're good fans. They don't yell it at the worst. Like they yell it on a punchline. It's like, all right, that kind of sucks. But anything you yell at a punchline stinks. But they're pretty smart with not. They'll wait for a pause, and then somebody will yell Chip or Uncle Paul, or they'll yell Opie and Anthony or whatever. I think for Howard's guys, it was rougher. Like when Artie would do shows, they I do shows with Artie. So they'll scream stuff while he's on, and they love him and they missed him. You know, that's a big part of it because he just kind of one day was gone off the show. Yeah. But I think he has a harder time with it as far as more interruptions.
You brought. I want to talk about. We're getting set to launch the Free Beer and Hot Wings Show comedy series, but it's something. To take a nod from you guys kind of did this a couple years ago with the Traveling Virus tour at one point. And you're kind of keeping it going, not so much Traveling Virus, but this antisocial thing that you're doing.
Yeah, we're not doing that many because it's hard to get everybody together. Like we have one show in AC in February. It's myself, Artie, Dave Attell, and Amy Schumer. It's a really good show.
Yeah, as an A-list of stand-up comics right there. I mean, that is big. And not to, sure. What do you equate to kind of stand-up coming back and kind of like gaining, like people like getting into it again? Because it seems like it's a comedy or a stand-up comedy kind of goes through waves of it's hot, it's cold, it's hot, it's cold. It seems really hot right now.
I honestly didn't even notice it get cold, but that's because when you have a mediocre career, the ups and downs is a 10-person per show difference. That's the beauty. But I'm happy. You know, if the economy gets better, it gets better. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe people feel more positive. I don't know. But I haven't noticed that big of a dip. But I haven't been on the road that much since. I started going back out a few weeks ago because I have a new hour now, so I'm doing that.
I think what I'm noticing is a lot of the season. We all see Louis C.K. is finally getting his due.
Yes,
getting his due, and I almost kind of feel like he's part of this ushering in of, you got guys like yourself or a David Tell who are in this game 15, 20 years. The ones that have only been doing it a couple years, not so much, but I kind of feel like a lot of you guys are finally hitting your stride. Maybe that's part of the reason why. Yeah,
I mean, well, Louis is the encouraging thing about Louis is, like, you know, we did Lucky Louie together, and after Lucky Louie, when that got canceled, after we did the first season, and then he got another pilot with HBO and another pilot, and neither one of them went anywhere. And then I think he got this. So it's like he had even missed projects after that. The critics destroyed him for Lucky Louie. They didn't really take any of us on.
Yeah.
It was more they were attacking Louis. Yeah. And now they look back and they go, well, you know, we might have been wrong about that, you know. But he's brilliant, and he's not lazy.
Yeah.
Like, he's not just a brilliant guy, but, like, you know, in the early 90s, he would direct these little short films at the comic strip Christmas party. So, like, he can just do everything.
Yeah.
And him releasing his thing online is great for all of us because Aziz did it and Gaffigan did it. You know, I don't have the fan base to do it at this point, but I would like to someday because it's just a great FU to the networks.
It really is. And he's brilliant. And he's already sold out for a show he's doing here, TPAC at Andrew Jackson. Everything had to go through LouisCK.net.
Yes.
It was brilliant.
No ticket. He wanted to do the Garden.
Yeah.
I think he said that yesterday when he called it. He wanted to do the Garden, but they only used Ticketmaster. So he did 12 nights at City Center, which I think was over 20. I think he was wrong yesterday when he said 12 shows. I think it was 12 nights that he actually did at City Center. So he did about 25,000 people.
Is your comeback to him the next time he says that? Is there thing something like, now when I hear the Garden, I think of some tranny bar up on the Upper East Side or something like that?
No, because I don't even think that would register with him. He'd probably just think I was being honest.
Yeah.
He'd probably go, all right. Okay, Jim. Or we like giving each other awful, corny responses. That's that. You know. Come on, Lou. Let's keep it clean. You know, just that stupid joking.
You and I are both listening to the very funny Jim Norton. He's at Zanies tonight, tomorrow, and Saturday. Zanies.com to get your tickets. Still got a few too, by the way, and we gave some out all this week. You are about as brutally honest as anybody I've ever listened to before. What made you decide I've got to do this? I've got to go down this route of brutal honesty?
When I first started, it's what would make the other comedians laugh. Like I started in 1990, so like the early days, you wanted to make your peers laugh too, and they would always laugh at the brutally honest, either self-deprecation or talking whether it's prostitutes or like the sexual stuff. All that stuff is what they tended to lock into. So it just kind of became comfortable for me to do that.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's mine. I own that. Like, it's fun to be able just to tell the truth. I'm never going to get caught lying about doing all this stuff because most of it happened. And if I exaggerate it, it's not that big of an exaggeration.
And when I tell people his brutal honesty, if you go to Eat a Bullet, and that's your website, is it .net or .com?
.com, and it's a horrendous site. You should just go and then Twitter me how bad it is. It stinks.
Well, you can go to Jim's Twitter page and just feel that realism that you throw out there, and you're not afraid to throw yourself under the bus. And I kind of have taken some of those cues in what I try to do. I always find that self-deprecation is always the easiest form of leading into slamming somebody else.
Yes, and I also feel it personalizes and justifies the attacks. Like, if I make fun of Mel Gibson, which I did in the last special, or Tiger.
The nerve of you.
I know, he really is. His phone calls and Pat O'Brien on the phone, they're my two most entertaining things in the last 20 years. But I have to be honest. I've had those arguments, or with Tiger, I've done that stuff. It's like, who am I just to come off and criticize? That's why people in the news should all be shot, because they're just these horrible voyeurs, but they don't tell you anything about themselves.
Yeah.
Like, I would love to know, like, what does Matt Lauer like to do in the sack, or any of these other? Could I have picked a worse news example? I would say Anderson Cooper, but we all know, for a long time we didn't. I was in a restaurant once.
Neither did he.
Yeah, I think he was a little bit
More
confused.
denial,
He had Kathy Griffin on because he kind of, I would with her if she would. But I saw him in a restaurant with a gentleman friend, and I was like, all right, the rumors are true. I'm happy he came out for him.
How about that simultation thing she was trying to pull on him on New Year's Eve there?
Oh, yeah. I like Kathy. I like the fact that, like, after the first year, I'm like, they're never going to use her again on CNN. And for the last 3 years, they've used her because she does this weird sexual stuff. It creeps them out. It makes them uncomfortable.
Something is clearly popping ratings-wise because they keep going back to that well. It's got to be that the train wreck or something like that.
There is something just creepy about watching her because I love Kathy, but she's slightly tranny-ish, and I say that with affection. There's something funny about her just making him sexually repulsed and uncomfortable.
Jim Norton's hanging out in the studio here. It's been a number of years. I remember when I first met you, I actually went up because, like I said, I'm a big fan of the show, and I was friends with Steve.
Yeah,
and he got me up to meet you guys and sit and watch the show for the first time. And I remember saying to you, this is a very endearing first meeting with Jim. Hey, I'm doing my best to try to get you booked at Zanies in Nashville. I don't have to beg for shows.
Did I say that?
Something to that effect. Don't call out. I don't have to beg for shows.
Was I kidding or was I serious?
I don't even know.
Oh, I hope I was kidding. What a tool I am. Thank you for talking to me again. If I said that, I'm hoping I was kidding. Sometimes I'll say things like that kidding, but I'm hoping,
I caught you at Bonnaroo a couple years ago. And did you end up doing a set here in town at that night or the next day or anything? Did you do not. Or just do Bonnaroo?
Did Louis do it that year? I'm almost. Oh, that's well. He told us the same place every year. I do not remember because I've done it a couple times. I've done it 2 or 3 times.
Who? The last time you were at Bonnaroo, who were you with that day in the tent?
I do not remember, man.
I caught Marin and Schumer last year there. It's a great little area to kind of get away from the
and it's
festival.
Air conditioned, so people go in. Yeah,
air conditioned. Is that a tough room or is that easy?
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not easy. I think I did okay here. I don't even remember the shows. But it's not an easy gig at all. The last time I was here, Metallica was the headliners.
Yeah.
And stupid Kanye West.
Yeah.
Wanted to go on after, what did he want to go on the main stage after Pearl Jam?
Yeah.
You dumbbell. They had him on he's such a putz, this guy. They had him on a great stage, like a side stage after some guy with a J in his name. I don't remember what his name was. He's like he's a guitar player.
Jack White?
No, might have been Jack White.